Thank you, Presiding Officer. Cabinet Secretary, as you have overall responsibility for the education system in Wales, it's ultimately your responsibility to ensure that public funds are applied properly and to the benefit of children and young people in Wales. How do you monitor how educational budgets are being used by local authorities, schools and consortia?
I would refer you to the answer I gave to Llyr Hughes-Griffiths. We have in-depth conversations with individual local authorities, with the WLGA and the regional consortia. If we are unclear that the funding is not being allocated in a way that is satisfactory to us, then officials work with that organisation to provide clarity and we act accordingly.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Cabinet Secretary. You perhaps be aware that the BBC reported today that approximately £4 million has been taken out of school budgets to pay for local authorities' apprenticeship levy to the UK government. They're also reporting that while some councillors are paying this levy out of the overall budget, 13 of them are paying it out of the school budgets. And those councillors that are paying it out of the overall budget, their educational budget may well be affected unless the council's ring-fenced it. Now, I know that the apprenticeship levy is a UK tax and that you have the Welsh Government have absolutely no control over it. But can you tell us what the impact of paying that apprenticeship levy is having on school budgets and the staff levels of schools?
Well, the member is right. The apprenticeship levy is not something that we have control over at the Welsh Government, and we have raised, as a government, our concerns with Westminster in how the apprenticeship levy is working. Officials meet regularly to raise concerns with the Department for Education on issues linked to apprenticeships, and we understand that officials in the Department for Education...
We don't need a supporting act from Darren Miller to the Minister.
We understand that officials in the Department for Education are currently reviewing the operation of the apprenticeship levy.
Sorry, Cabinet Secretary, but now we have one of your fellow Cabinet Secretaries joining in, so let's stop it and allow the Cabinet Secretary to continue.
As I was trying to say, Presiding Officer, we are in dialogue with the Department for Education at Westminster regarding the operation of the apprenticeship levy. We have an urgent need to minimise the levy's impact on the apprenticeship programme in Wales. I understand why it is so frustrating that schools find themselves in this position, and that's why we need this programme to be reformed.
Cabinet Secretary, I'm very glad to hear that you're having conversations with Westminster about the impact of the apprenticeship levy. The Additional Learning Needs Bill has introduced a presumption in favour of pupils with ALN being placed in mainstream schools. This is a move I wholeheartedly applaud. I grew up in an era when people with additional learning needs and disability were effectively segregated from the rest of the population. I really couldn't be happier that it's being consigned to the dustbin now. But at a time when there are increasing burdens on schools, school budgets being hit, as you've described, ALM provisions now in danger of being detrimentally affected, and I'm already hearing reports from constituents that support staff for children and young people with additional learning needs are being cut. However, Wales gets a payback from the UK Government from the apprenticeship levy. So what discussions have you had with the Cabinet Secretary for Finance with regard to compensating local authorities and schools for the losses they've sustained because of the levy, such as refunding the levy paid so that at least the schools don't lose out?
I can assure the member I have numerous conversations with the Cabinet Secretary for Finance over my priorities for investment in Welsh education. With regards to special educational needs, I welcome the support of the UKIP member for our policy of transformation in this area of schools. If we are to raise standards and close the attainment gap, we cannot do that without supporting all of our students who have additional learning needs, and that's why we've allocated 20 million to implement the new legislation that this Assembly recently passed.
Question 3.